Hey everyone, it's Lisa Mears here, and today I'm making two Halloween cards using some of the brand new Halloween products from Pretty Pink Posh. If you haven't yet seen my video showing all of the new Halloween products, I'll link it at the top right corner of this video. So for my cards today, I'm using the new Halloween Mug Editions die set, which will be the focal point for my cards. And this die set coordinates with the Pretty Pink Posh Winter Mug die set that was released last year. It allows you to decorate the mug for Halloween. So as you saw in the intro of this video, you can turn your mug into a Frankenstein. So here is the hair for your Frankenstein. You can also have it be a witch's pot with the bubbles brewing. There's a witch's hat. There is a moon and a star. You can also turn it into a cat. You can see there's some cat ears and whiskers there. There's a rest in peace sign, and there's a broom that would go along with the witch theme. There's also a pumpkin. There's also a spider, and you can also turn your mug into a mummy using those dies there in the bottom left corner. So I am going to be using this die set to make a Frankenstein. I'm also going to be making a witch's pot, but there's so many more options that you can do with this die set. So here's the winter mug die set that was released last year. This die set is the one that you'll use that coordinates with the Halloween editions. This die set also has a candy cane. It also has the liquid dye that you put for the liquid of your coffee. There's also a marshmallow die that's included with the winter mug. So I'm going to be using this set in addition to the Halloween editions to make some fun Halloween mugs. So I went ahead and took the mug die and die cut some gray cardstock. I'm going to ink this up with some black ink because I wanted it more of a black color. Now you can always take this die and die cut some black cardstock, but because I wanted to make this a little bit dimensional and have some depth to it, I chose to use gray cardstock and just ink it up with some black ink. So you can see there that I'm going to have some black edges, but the center is going to be a little bit more lighter, so you'll be able to see the gray cardstock more. But again, the whole point of this is to add some depth by inking up the edges. If I just had black cardstock, it would be really hard to ink up black cardstock with black ink. You wouldn't really be able to see the ink. So there's my mug, and now I'm going to take this die, the little bubbles that go on the witch's pot. I did die cut some green cardstock, and I'm going to ink it up with some green ink, again, just to add some more depth. So in addition to that large piece of the bubbles there that I'm inking up, it also cuts out little individual bubbles you can see there on my table, and it also cuts out the piece that has the liquid dripping from the mug. So I'm just going to ink all of those up, and then I'll move on to the witch's hat. So the witch's hat I die cut out of some orange cardstock. So here's the die for the witch's hat. It also has the little accent pieces, such as the strap that goes around the witch's hat, I die cut out of some black cardstock, and the little belt loop I die cut out of purple cardstock. So I'm going to go ahead and ink up that orange hat with some orange ink, and then I'll go ahead and attach the belt. So I'll add the black part first, and then I'll add the purple belt loop right on top. I also die cut some cardstock for the broom, so here's the die for the broom. So I have the broom out of some brown and some kind of like a mustard color cardstock, and then I have black for the little piece that goes around the broom. I'm going to go ahead and add some ink to the broom. Here I'm using some gingerbread ink from scrapbook.com to add a little brown to give it some color. There's also some stitching lines in that broom, which also gives it some more accents. And here I'm taking just a Q-tip. If you had a thin ink blending brush, you can, but I'm just using that thin Q-tip just to drag some ink on those stitching lines, just to add a little bit more accents on top. And then I'll ink up the broomstick as well. And then I'll glue those pieces together. So I'll add the little black piece around the top of the broom, and then I'll add the broomstick. So there is the broom. So I'll set that aside and now I'm ready to work on my background. So I'm just going to do an ink blended background using some Bristol Smooth cardstock and my Distress Oxide inks. I'm going to add some color here, 3 different colors of inks. In some Halloween colors, I have the Crackling Campfire ink at the top of that cardstock. Then I'm going to add Wilted Violet. So I have like an orangey color at the top. Then I have a purple color in the middle. And then I'll come back in with the Crackling Campfire and I'll just blend that a little bit better with that Wilted Violet color. At the bottom of that cardstock, I'm going to add the black soot. So I'll fill up the entire bottom of the cardstock with that black ink, and then I'll come back in with the Wilted Violet, and I will just blend that together a little bit better with that black ink. So after that entire background is inked up, I'm going to come in and spritz this with some water. I'm going to bring in a paper towel and I'm going to press that paper towel onto that card background. And what this is going to do is it's going to pull up some of that ink onto the paper towel, and it's actually going to give me some little white splotches there on the backgrounds where it pulled up that ink from the cardstock. I'm also going to put some acrylic white paint on my mat, spritz that with water, and then blend that together really well with a paintbrush to get a thin consistency, and then I'm going to flick that paint onto my card background. So this is just going to add a little bit more interest to my background, and I love doing this with Halloween cards. And I'm going to do the same thing with the winter mug, so I'll go ahead and grab that and put it there on my mat and just flick some more of that acrylic white paint onto the winter mug. So now I'm ready to put the mug together. So I'm going to place the broom in one of the openings on those green bubbles, and then I will place the broomstick inside of the mug because there is an opening on that mug as well. And I'm just going to place it here on my card background to see where I want it. I want to make sure before I glue it down that that broom is far enough down into the mug so that it's not extending off the top edge of the cardstock. So I go ahead and glue down the piece that's dripping on the bottom rim of the mug. And I'm going to go ahead and place my sentiment, and I'm using the Large Boo Script word die. This is also another new product from Pretty Pink Posh's August release. I'm also going to place all of those bubbles all along the top of the mug to make it look like they're flowing out of the top. And I'm also going to have the witch's hat at the bottom left-hand corner of the mug. So after I've placed everything where I want it, I'll go ahead and start by adding the bubbles. So I'm applying glue to the backs of those bubbles. Once I have the bubbles down, I'll go ahead and add my mug with the broom. And then I'll add the word boo. And then I'll add the witch's hat. I also die cut the spider, and I'm going to add that to the witch's hat. I will snip off part of the B and the word boo that was extending beyond the card layer, and then I'm just going to add some accents using a white gel pen. I'll add that card layer to a piece of black cardstock, and my black cardstock measures 4¼ by 5½ inches, and then I will add that to an A2 size card base. I love how this card turned out. I think it's so much fun using these Halloween additions to decorate your Halloween mug. I have one more card coming up using the Frankenstein, but before I get into that card, I do want to let you know that these cards are part of a Pretty Pink Posh blog hop where you have the opportunity to win a Pretty Pink Posh gift certificate to their store. And if you're interested in joining along in that blog hop, head over to my blog at lisamearsdesigns.com where you can find out more information. And I will have a coordinating blog post link in the description box of this YouTube video. I will also have all supplies that I've used in this video listed in the description box as well. So I always appreciate when you use my links because it does help support me. Okay, so for my second card, as I said, I'm making a Frankenstein. So I die cut the winter mug out of green cardstock and I'm inking it up with some green ink to add some depth to the edges. And then I have the die that represents Frankenstein's hair, and I die cut that out of gray cardstock, and I'm adding some black ink along the edges. Just like with the previous card, I'm using the gray cardstock rather than solid black cardstock because the gray cardstock allows me to add that black ink where I can keep a little bit of that cardstock showing its true color, which allows me to have more depth because you can see it looks like there's some shadow going on. Whereas if I use solid black cardstock, I don't get any of that depth because you can't see black ink on black cardstock. It's really hard to see. So that's why I chose to use the gray. So after that's all inked up, I also inked up those two little bolts that are in the side of Frankenstein's head. I also die cut those out of gray cardstock. I die cut the liquid for the coffee mug out of some brown cardstock and inked up the edges with brown ink. Again, that die was from the winter mug die set. So now I'll go ahead and put my Frankenstein together. So I'm going to add glue to the back of the black hair and add that to the mug. I'm going to go ahead and add the coffee liquid inside of the mug. I used this die to die cut the center of the eyes. Also have the mouth. And then this die to die cut the large part of the eyes. And now I'll go ahead and glue those together. So the large part of the eye I die cut out of black cardstock, and I'm just going to add a little piece of glue right in the center of both of those pieces, and then I'll add the white eye right on top of that glue. So I'll go ahead and place those on the mug. So I'll have the two eyes and I'll also have the mouth, which I die cut out of some black cardstock, and I also have the stitches there at the top of the eye. And I also die cut the nose out of some black cardstock. So I'll go ahead and glue all of those pieces to my mug, and then I'll glue down those bolts to each side of the mug. Now I'm ready to work on my card background. I have a piece of purple cardstock and I cut that to 4 by 5 1/4, and I'm going to use my scrapbook.com Mardi Gras ink. This is a purple ink, and just ink around the edges of that purple cardstock. Next, I'm going to use the Pretty Pink Posh Spiderweb stencil. This is a new stencil, part of their Halloween release. It's a 2-layer stencil, and one of the layers has the spider webs and the other layer has the spiders. And you can use them both together or you can use them separate. It's up to you. So I'm going to go ahead and ink up these spider webs with some white pigment ink. When I'm done with that layer, I will go ahead and take out my spider stencil and just line it up, and then I'm going to use my black ink to ink up these spiders. So now I'm ready to put my card together. And for my sentiment, I'm going to be using the Spooky Wishes script die. This is also new from Pretty Pink Posh. Just die cut that out of white cardstock, and I chose to use white because it just stands out better against that dark background. I thought about using the black, but the black didn't stand out as well. So I just put glue on the back of Spooky Wishes, glued it to the top portion of that card layer, and then the Frankenstein mug is going to be glued to the bottom portion of that card layer. I'll go ahead and put glue on the back of that layer and add it to a piece of black cardstock. My black cardstock is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inches, and then I'll add that to an A2 size card base. So here are the two cards that I made using the Halloween Editions die set in conjunction with the winter mug. And remember, you could also use this die set to turn your mug into a mummy or even a cat. So once again, if you're interested in any of the supplies I've used, please check out the links down in the description box below, and I always appreciate your support because when you use my links, it does help support me. If you're interested in following along with the Pretty Pink Posh blog hop, be sure to take a look at my blog at lisamearsdesigns.com. And as always, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you like videos like this, be sure to click that subscribe button and turn on your bell notifications so that you don't miss out on any videos. Thanks for watching, everyone, and have a spooktacular day.